Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner, episode number 177. This is a special nostalgia episode for 5/25/77. With me tonight to discuss this landmark film in this history of Star Wars is the one and only, my partner in crime, my co-host, the one and only Mr. Ross Amico. Ross, welcome.
Hi, Roy. When do we commit crime?
And also joining us is our very special guest host, a longtime friend going back to 5th grade, Ross's cousin, the one and only, Mr. Joseph Metz. Joe, welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Roy and Ross.
How you doing tonight, guys?
Doing well.
Doing
Awesome.
okay, Roy. Yeah.
Very good. So, anyway, we are actually going to discuss this film. We've been talking about this. This film was actually brought to my attention. I want to give Captain Phil a shout out. And Captain Phil was actually letting myself, as well as Mary Beth from Mary Beth and Mike's show from Sci-Fi Distilled. He was talking about this movie that he was well aware of. He said that it had been a long time in the making. I'd never heard about it. But anyway, when I did, I was immediately enthralled. And I actually watched this like at 3:30 in the morning. And it was really, really good. So folks that are out there, it is available for streaming if you have Amazon Prime. And then the other thing is it is also available on Blu-ray. And I would actually highly recommend that you get the Blu-ray version, because there is special commentary by the writer as well as the director, who is Patrick Reed Johnson. And this is really, it's very nostalgic. And that's going to be what we're going to be talking about tonight. We're actually going to be discussing the film in the first part of the show. And then what we're going to do is we're going to kind of springboard from that to talk about growing up and how it was in the late 70s, early 80s. And a lot of what this film is about is kind of like what we actually experience. And I'm sure there's a lot of folks out there throughout the world that actually went through this. And it's just wonderful that this type of nostalgia has been documented in a film such as this, 5/25/77, because we can relate to it on a certain level. And it really was an opportunity for myself, and I'm sure for you guys, to step back into time and just kind of relive all those things. And we're going to kind of be doing a little bit of both, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, it's not just about the nostalgia, though, but also the fact that we kind of traveled a parallel route with the filmmaking and everything to some extent. So we'll talk about that, too.
Yeah. Before we get started, I want to welcome our viewers out there. The Hague is out there. He's joining us from Pennsylvania. Welcome, John. Good to see you out there. And Martin is joining us from New York State. Welcome, Martin. Great to see you out there as well. My old companion as far as at work, the one and only Mr. Dan Rodriguez is out there. Dan, good to see you out there. Hope you're doing well. He's tuning in from Pennsylvania. And Don Bethman is out there, and he's joining us from Delaware. Don, welcome. And then also Randy Lee is also out in the comment section, and he is actually viewing us on YouTube tonight. So thanks for supporting us on YouTube. We appreciate that, Randy. And as is Lou Place. Lou is also joining us on YouTube, and he's joining us from Rhode Island. Great to see you out there as well. Thanks for being with us, guys. And The Hague is saying it was a good film, oozing nostalgia out of every frame. Well said, John. And also I want to give a shout out to Pete Fultz. He's out there saying all hail and well met. We appreciate that. And Randy's commenting saying prior to 5/25/77, I was part of a small group of sci-fi kids. After 5/25/77, I was part of a small group of sci-fi kids thanks to Star Wars. Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, thanks everyone for joining us. And and Bill's friend, my friend Bill Scarrato is out there. Bill's joining us on YouTube as well from Countrygate Theater. Bill, welcome. Thanks for being out there too. So let's get started, guys. Now, Ross and Joe, I know you both. Ross actually had come down to the house just a couple of days ago, and we were going to try to get through the commentary. But Joe, did you watch this on Amazon Prime when you tuned in?
Amazon, not Blu-ray.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. So in regards to this film, let's just start. We'll do like a roundtable discussion. I mean, what was your guys' impression of this movie, and how did you feel like when you watched this for the very first time?
Well, I'll throw it to Joe, but I want to start off by saying, the title 52577 immediately for anybody who was, either into film back then or was a sci-fi guy, just trips an alarm immediately. Like people who aren't in the know don't know what's this 52577. Nobody's going to go see this movie, but it's kind of like this demarcation, this thing that's kind of etched in our brains. Before Star Wars, everything was different than after Star Wars, and that of course was the date that Star Wars was went into wide release. Was May 25th, 77. And I'll throw it to Joe from there because I want to hear his impressions.
No, absolutely the same. I mean, it really brought back for me the feeling of life of being back then. And that date, I mean, I don't believe I'm trying to remember exactly when I saw Star Wars and when it came to the theater that was the closest to us. I don't think I actually saw it in May. It may not have even been there in May in our area, but I remember seeing it in the summer, and it was completely insane because my mom, at that point, took a friend of mine and me to see the film, and we drove up there to the theater expecting to get in and get tickets, and we got there, and there's this massive crowd stretching from the entrance of the theater all the way back on the sidewalk, all the way through the parking lot, and it was hopeless. We waited in line for about an hour, and everything sold out. We couldn't get tickets, and so we had to drive back home and come back the following weekend, and we came back like 2 hours early and whatever, and we're finally able to get tickets. But just that sight of that massive crowd, and on the one hand, the disappointment of not getting in, but on the other hand, this incredible, like, heightened expectation, right? This must be really special if you can't even get into the theater, right? So, yeah.
Joe, I have to ask, did you see this? Did you see it at the East and Eric for the first time? Or was it in Allentown?
Whitehall Cinema. Whitehall Cinema in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Was that the one that's behind the Lehigh Valley Mall or the one that's in the Whitehall Mall?
It is in the Whitehall Mall. The one I don't even think the one in the Lehigh Valley Mall existed at that point. I think that was built a few years later. The Whitehall Cinema was just, I think it was like a 2-cinema theater. It was in the Whitehall Mall, the old one before. Either they had just opened the Lehigh Valley Mall or it was in the process of being constructed. But I don't believe that sort of multiplex was there yet, or it may have just opened. But Star Wars was in the old one, the dual theater.
Huh. See, that's it. Very interesting because my memory was that I saw it at the Lehigh Valley Mall.
Okay.
But why would they open it there if it was right across the road in the Whitehall Mall?
I believe, I could be wrong too, but my memory was that it was in the old theater, the Whitehall Mall Theater. But, maybe I'm wrong. It would be interesting. One of the things I wanted to scan to Roy is I have the old, the theater advertisements, and that would have definitively answered where it was if I could have found them. So it would be interesting to check our memories and see which one is blurring it, right?
Yeah, it's interesting too, because the Whitehall Mall, that's where the Sears was at. I mean, and to your point too, what you were saying, Ross, because with the Lehigh Valley Mall, I mean, you have the theater that's like literally across the street, and then you had where the Sears was at, and these theaters were not like multiplexes back in the time. I mean, even with the East and Eric, it was a big deal that there was 2 theaters, and then what they did was several years later they expanded and they added 2 more theaters, and I was like, whoa, we've got 4 theaters at this location. But again, this is like 1970/1981, 82, 83. So, I mean, it was a big deal. It wasn't like it is today where you go into a building and you've got like 16 theaters, showing all these different types of films.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only reason I think it's the Lehigh Valley thing is because I bought the booklet that came out after the screening. They were selling them in the lobby, and I remember getting it there.
Yeah, I bought the booklet too. Well, you know what? Given all things considered, you're probably right. I'm probably mixing up the 2 theaters
because we're eating up valuable time arguing over where it opens.
No, it's okay.
But what's indisputable was the crowd, right? Regardless of which of those 2 theaters, which, I mean, as Ross is saying, they were essentially a block or 2 away from each other. But regardless of which of those 2 theaters it was, we couldn't get in, right? The crowd was massive. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. Hey, I want to welcome Mark Rich is out there, and he's joining us on YouTube. And Mark is also a person that I work with, a friend from work. Thanks for joining us, Mark. The Hague is also saying, I didn't see it opening day, but soon after, I remember my dad saying, I hope you understand this thing. A year later, when the toys came out, he knew how much I understood it.
And he's still understanding it.
Hey, and Captain Phil is out there. Phil, thanks for joining us. He says, I've been waiting for years for this movie to come out. I saw the original trailer, the one with Kodachrome and ELO in the soundtrack, on the net, and waited year after exploiters of Star Wars nostalgia came and went. Finally saw the Blu-ray release. Yeah, and that's the thing. This movie was actually, most of the photography was done years ago. This thing has been like about 18, well, we're now into 2023, but this movie came out last year. This was almost like an 18-year project, which in itself is really incredible.
I was really stunned by the accuracy of it because when I was watching it, I was looking at things like, the little film cartridges for the Super 8 cameras and the old editing machines, both the little splicer with the blade and also the one with the two wheels and the screen, all of these devices, which, I had at home and we had at home, and just other things around the house. Like there were certain things in the decor, in their house where I was looking at this gold plate that was hanging on the wall and sort of knitted Afghan that the one character wrapped around themselves when they were cold. And I could think, I had that. We had that, right? It's like the whole decor. It was so accurate, right?
He really did not miss the details. And to your point too about that, because they were showing the Kodachrome or Kodachrome film, right, yeah, and because on the Blu-ray version, he actually Patrick Reed Johnson is doing the commentary, and he's also doing it with Seth Gavin. And when they're talking, it comes up that those film cartridges were only about 3 minutes and a half, which is accurate because I remember timing it. And, when we would get these things, we'd save our allowances or what have you. And it was like a lot of money then. I mean, back in the 1980, 81, it was like, I think like $6 for the regular one. And then do you guys remember getting the Type G film? And the Type G was for lower lighting, in case you didn't have the lamp for the light.
My lighting here in my room today looks like Type G. It has
and that was like $8, and it's like, oh my God, there was a whole budget. You know what I mean? And then
if you want to do your own Barry Lyndon.
Yes, exactly. I've got my candle here, my 18th century candle.
I remember taking when I was filming with the camera. I remember because I didn't have the light, and I would actually take the light, like a lamp light, and I would put it above, and I'm like walking around with it just to try to simulate, and everything. And I think at one point you could actually see the lampshade come down when I was filming. But yeah,
now, I'll do you one better. And I actually did a film in black and white. So I had to go around and find every, little cartridge of black and white film in every old camera shop that I visited.
Wow.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then I kept the extra reels in the freezer for years.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like all of my unused film I would put in the freezer.
Hey, Linda's joining us from Canada. Welcome, Linda. Great to see you out there. She's saying, even though I was a lover of science fiction, my disdain for movie hype started early, so I refused to see this for the longest time. Yeah, I mean, I can understand that, Linda. In fact, truth be told, I did not see this movie like opening week or even like in the first month or so.
You're about Star Wars now, right?
And I'm talking about Star Wars, yes. In fact, Joe, I remember, very, very clearly you talking about Star Wars. Well, actually, when you and I first met, it was 2001: A Space Odyssey. That was the movie. I remember we were in a modeling class in Mr. Beelan's fifth grade, and it was like the last class of the afternoon, and we're trying to put these models together. I think I had like the Romulan ship from Star Trek, or you had the Klingon ship from Star Trek from the original series, and we're trying to glue it and everything. And I remember distinctively you talking about 2001, and you were saying it was going to be on television, and it was going to be like on a Sunday night, and you're like, you gotta watch it. And I think you actually tape recorded it as well and everything.
Well, that's another reason why I resonated so much with this film, because when it showed the scenes of the main character watching 2001 in the theater, and I was really lucky, I also got to see 2001 in the theater, not in 1968, but on the re-release in 1975 or 76 at the State Theater in Easton. And my mom took me, and I was that kid, right? I mean, I think I was 10 at the time, and I was sitting there, and it was transformative for me. I've mentioned this many times whenever I'm on your show. That was one of the things that set me off on my life path, seeing that film, right? So, yeah.
Hey, Sherry's commenting. Hi, hun. Thanks for being out there. She's saying, hey, guys, I saw Star Wars for the first time at the State Theater with my mom, whose birthday is 5/25.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's right. Her mom's birthday is, on
So Star Wars must have shown in every theater, regardless of the fact that it was a block away from. I tried to get in opening night, couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. Like Joe, I got bounced. I think I came back the next week and got there early, and we got in. Before that, I had the Marvel comic. I don't know if you remember, they had the adaptations.
Right.
So I like flipped through the first issue, and I said, I'm not so into this. I don't know. I didn't have high hopes, but I saw the trailer in Philadelphia. I wasn't living there yet. We just happened to be in Philly, and they showed the trailer. I remember, and I was a kid. I was scared. I said, there's this gorilla and this guy in the helmet, and
I'm really glad they used the original trailer in the film, because I always remembered, heroes, villains, aliens from 1,000 worlds, right? And it would seem like it was such a strange memory, because for years you couldn't access that trailer anymore. And I sometimes would think, did I imagine all that? But sure enough, it's really in the original trailer, right?
Yeah, you can see it on YouTube now, but the logo isn't even the same as.
Right, exactly.
It's like morphed over the years so much. Yeah. And when we say years, I mean, my God, it's 45 years coming up on 46.
Wow.
I mean, that's insane. I mean, 25 years is a long time, or 20 years is a long time. Just this week, Star Trek Deep Space Nine celebrated its 30th anniversary. Wow. And it's like, okay, 30 years, that's a long time, but not too, it's a long time. That's a long time ago. I mean, really. The Hague is commenting. He said, I love when a film catches the time that it's talking about. The film caught the era. Only other thing I feel is close to it is the TV series Life on Mars. That show caught the 70s. And let me see. Don is commenting, and he's saying, I am a huge Star Wars fan, but when it originally came out, I opted for one-on-one with Robbie Benson forever. I will feel the two.
But at least he admits it. Confession is good for the soul.
It's all good. Randy's saying, I wish I had my Star Wars hot films. I would film snow speeder models and figures in the Wisconsin snow. Yeah, and that's exactly what we're talking about. I mean, that's the connection throughout the country or throughout the world. The Hague is saying, good news. Yeah. Good God. Yes. The comics were awesome. The art wasn't the greatest. I remember being like, wow, this ain't too good. Now I look at nothing and it compares to that art. Nostalgia. And Lou is just commenting, saying, Linda, I didn't see Star Wars after it was released for months. By the time I saw it, it was like a private screening.
Wow.
And Claudia, thanks for being out there. She says, I saw it that July in Grant, New Mexico. The outside of the theater had all the Star Wars decorations. My biggest impression was the music playing before the movie started, then the closing credits. Okay, so the Endless Star Destroyer was impressive too.
Yeah. To see that for the first time, and to see the movie with an audience.
Yeah.
That was into the movie and not looking at their phones.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I'm sure. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that was just an amazing experience. There were several scenes in the movie, and they made the jump to light speed for the first time. The audience was like,
Yeah, for me, it was that Star Destroyer. I mean, I think, I've probably mentioned this on the show so many times before, but that moment really changed cinema because, the color palette, the sound, and then just the realism of it, the sheer size, right? And that endless ship passing over the camera and, just going on, and just the feeling that it was actually there, that it didn't look like a model. It looked like you were transported into space. And then it passes and you see the blue engine flare with that sort of surreal blue that I had never seen before in film, and it was just like my mind was blown. I think that was like, I don't know, it rewired my brain.
Well, and in talking about Patrick Reed Johnson, I mean, he was inspired after seeing 2001, and that kind of comes back to me thinking about you, Joe, in regards to that. But he's obviously he saw it in the theater though, because he's a few years older than us. He was born in 62, so he's 60. We're 56, but seeing that and just having such a strong impression, and he was very young when he saw that too. I mean, that came out in 68, so he would have been 6 years old, but still. And then throughout the 70s, I mean, making these films and doing what we did during those summers. I love the connection, and I love when it's like the first time going to a Star Trek convention, and I was there, and then I remember just like walking around in awe that all these people, you know, love science fiction. They love Star Trek. And it was just like mind blowing. And somebody pulled out a tape recorder and started playing sound effects. And it was like immediately I like turned and it was like, I know what that is. And they were like joking about, you know, what it was. So it's that camaraderie, so to speak, amongst all of us. And that's I think what really hits home about this movie.
Mm. Yeah, and it had the actual connections to Star Wars with the producers. You know, you had Gary Kurtz, and you had you know, Fred Roos, who was involved in American Graffiti.
Yeah,
and it helped Harrison Ford get his start. You know, you had it was really weird because the lead of the movie there, John Francis Daley, who did such a good job, was in Freaks and Geeks. I don't know if you remember that show.
I've heard of it. I've never seen it.
The title I've heard of, but I never saw it.
Yeah, it was out like 20 years ago, and it had a young cast, a high school, you know, film or show. But everybody in it went on to become, you know, something. You know, Seth Rogen was in it, James Franco, Linda Cardinelli, Joe Flaherty played the dad from SCTV. You know, he played the dad. And the guy who played Biff, Tom Wilson, was the coach, you know, the gym teacher. But so this kid was involved with that. And Steven Spielberg produced the show. It was Amblin that put it out.
Oh, Amblin Entertainment. Yep.
Yeah. So he was involved with that, and now he's involved in this homage to Lucas and Spielberg and Kubrick. But there were all kinds of like interconnecting stuff as it went on. Because of course Spielberg's. Has anybody seen The Fabelmans? Have you seen The Fabelmans yet?
I haven't seen it yet. I've been wanting to see it. Yeah.
You now that you've seen this, you got to see that. It's not going to be like the total, you know, orgy of nostalgia that this one is, but they're totally complementary because it's all about Spielberg's getting involved with the magic of film and his experiments and his early films and that sort of thing against the backdrop of family drama, stuff going on with his family. But it has recreations of his early films, and it's the same kind of thing. So it's and you know, in this one we get that great scene where he actually meets Spielberg.
Yeah,
at
right.
a point.
Yeah. He looked
You know,
so
and
young. The actor playing him was so improbably young looking, right?
Yeah. Austin Pendleton. You know, how old was he? He's like 11. But you know, you have that whole scene with the actor playing Spielberg, and in The Fabelmans, there's another. It's a totally analogous scene with another famous film director, John Ford, turns up in there with a great cameo. I don't want to really spoil it without you seeing it, but it's the same kind of. It's funny that they were both kind of thinking on these. But you know what? The whole thing reminds me, in a sense, of. You remember in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, everybody has this vision of Devil's Tower, and they're sketching it and they're sculpting it, and everybody is drawn. You know, you have the calling. Everybody is called to the mountain, but only so many make it.
Right.
Francois Truffaut saying that they're you know, these are just the folks that made it here, and the only people that actually make it to the mountain are you know, Richard Dreyfuss and Melinda Dillon and you got the guy who gets, you know, the knockout gas.
The last people standing.
But I feel like I was one of those guys, and I never made it to the mountain. You know what I mean? It's like I had the calling, but I didn't have, you know, the you know, whether it be the talent or the drive or the good fortune, you know, because it takes all those things to kind of you know, get you there. Right. And this is the story of a guy who really caught the wave. You know, he almost didn't, but you know, he actually in his way did.
I mean, I have to say though, I mean, between his passion and as well his mom too. I mean, she really, really went to bat for him.
If that's accurate, that was pretty incredible, right?
Yeah.
No, but I mean, going back to what Ross was saying, I mean, I remember as late as when I was 23 or 24, you know, I still was contemplating going to film school. And I remember still, you know, writing to the Tisch School and writing to UCLA and, you know, contemplating what it would really take to get in. and then thinking, oh, my portfolio wouldn't be good enough. Nobody's going to be interested in omelet or this or that, right? And, just really thinking, and then the cost, they didn't have financial aid and, all these different considerations. And then like finally definitively deciding when I was like 23, 24, okay, I'm not going to pursue film anymore. And then sort of trying to narrow down the other professions that I was interested in. But as late as my early 20s, I was still, pretty seriously at least thinking about it, making steps. And then I backed off,
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad that I didn't go that route ultimately, because I went to a school where that was available. It had everything that I was. It had film, it had music, and it had I went the route of the English literature, but I just feel like I would be frustrated if I were in the film industry. You know what I mean? It's like if I were interested in indie film and that sort of thing back then, maybe if I could get the financing, I could have a rewarding existence, if not a lucrative, not a wealthy, but I never made any money anyway. So, but I feel like, in the Hollywood system, you'd be lucky to be a grip or something, it's like you would never get to be the director, know?
No, I had the same feeling ultimately, that essentially, unless you're extraordinarily lucky, like somebody and massively talented, right? Like somebody like Steven Spielberg or Stanley Kubrick, you don't get to really make your own decisions, right? When you're doing a film, and to have that sort of auteur vision that Kubrick had, literally crafting every shot and making all of his own decisions. That's the way it would really pay off, right? But if you're hired as a director on somebody else's idea and you have to bring in some project on budget that you may or may not really believe in, you're an employee, right? And I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that I don't think it would have fulfilled my grand vision of what it would be to be an artist,
You know what that almost reminds me of too, because I remember we went to Sherry and I we saw REO Speedwagon, and it was years ago. It was probably at least 12 years ago. We saw them. They were playing at the State Theater. The music was incredible, and I think Kevin, I can't think of his last name. He's the lead singer, really, really nice guy, very approachable and everything. But he was telling the story to the audience, and it's just that they were not being controlled by the producers. I mean, they could play what they wanted to play. You know what I mean? They were at that point, and it's the freedom of expression and the artistic value and that is so important, and it became so important that they weren't being bogged down, because it's almost like you're owned because you're being directed as far as what you can produce, and then even when you're doing that, then of course they're getting part of the money as well, the profits. But they were so successful, you know what I mean? And he just said that it was rewarding to be able to just to be an artist. And again, I'm kind of paraphrasing what he was talking about. I'm sure Sherry remembers that as well too, when we were doing it. And always loved that band. But it's the same thing. It's just a different genre.
As a filmmaker, as Joe says, you have to answer. The producer doesn't like something, the studio doesn't like something, you'd have to change it. Yeah, you get fired and they hire Ron Howard. And it's funny though, because now that I say that, you ever see these ads on YouTube before a video starts where they have the master class? This is, I'm so and so, and this is my master class. Ron Howard had one on filmmaking, and I didn't, go to the master class or rent it or whatever. But one thing he said struck me, and he said, the first thing you have to understand as a filmmaker is that every project you work on eventually will break your heart. Yeah. And that's what it would be like to work in Hollywood, Yeah. But even if you were in total control, though, it'll never match your vision.
Right.
Kubrick never did anything, never got exactly the way you wanted it.
Yeah, there's this line that always sticks in my head by the famous cultural critic Walter Benjamin, and he says the work is the death mask of the conception. And every time when I hear that, I always think, oh, it's so true. Whenever you produce any sort of artistic work at all, right, it always somehow seems like it's not the grand thing you had in mind, right? Even if you did have control over it. So yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
It'd still be great. Yeah,
sometimes the vision is better than the actual reality,
right?
Or the finished product in that case. I just want to comment on Phil. He said that the soundtrack and sound design really made it happen for Star Wars. Plus the fact that simple, good, and evil story made Star Wars accessible to all ages and not just sci-fi fans. And Randy Lee commented, "Did anyone else get to meet Colin Cantwell before he passed? It was such a thrill to meet him and thank him for making my childhood awesome." So that was some comments, and there's other comments. Well, I want to welcome Dennis Chevalier is out there. Dennis, welcome. Good to see you out there. And let me see, just trying to get caught up here a little bit. Jeff Rubel is in the house. Jeff is joining us from out west. Welcome, Jeff. Thanks for joining us. And Lou is commenting, saying, the movie business is awful to be a part of. Cutthroat and egos galore. I got it out of my system after working for the state film office and being on sets occasionally. It's not for everybody. Yeah, and I remember Lou talking about some of those stories as well, too. Hey, and Ryan's out there. Hey, Ryan. Thanks for joining us.
The tragedy of art.
Buddy. Yeah. He's saying the tragedy of art. Yeah.
Yeah, on some level, Joe, I don't think it would ever match the satisfaction you had of being with your Super 8 film, sitting there with your editing machine and putting the scenes together the way you wanted them.
There was something to that. It was immensely satisfying, I do have to say.
No, yeah. I mean, not too long ago, I actually came across one of those, and actually, you guys are going to laugh, but it reminds me of a Star Trek communicator because it flips open and then you put the film in, and then it's the splicer and you bring it down and it would cut the film.
All roads lead to Star Trek.
All roads do lead to Star Trek, Joe. So I'm just going to show a couple slides just from this film. So bear with me while I bring this up just to give the our viewers just an idea. I'm just going to do that really quickly, and I'm going to share the screen right now. So hang on.
Oh, the other thing about the movie is, John Francis Daly, who plays the lead, the guy who created Freaks and Geeks, as you're calling us up, I'll just say this, was Paul Feig, and the executive producer of the show is Judd Apatow, and they always worked with Seth Rogen, and Seth Rogen is in the Spielberg movie in The Fabelmans. So it's like these weird parallels. If you watch this movie and see The Fabelmans, I think you'll have quite a rewarding experience.
And where can that be viewed, Ross? Is that online?
It's in theaters now. Maybe it's
really?
Yeah, maybe it's on the line. Oh, maybe it's on the interwebs. Yeah, maybe it's on the internet for streaming. I don't know, but it's in.
I think it's on Amazon if you pay. I think it's like rent or pay or buy or something.
Yeah, and sometimes for newer films, you might have to wait a little bit for the price to go down. I'm not sure, but
Gotcha. Oh, that's good to know, though. We always like to give Starlog Magazine a tribute, and in this movie, did you guys catch Starlog in the background? How cool is that? Cinema Fantastique.
Oh yeah,
yeah. All the goodies from back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
The Hague is asking, "What's in the theater?" And that was the
Fabelmans. What's the theater? He's saying, "What's the theater?" Yeah, nobody goes to the theater.
Oh yeah, what's a theater? Alrighty, so here's some shots, and on the extreme left is Patrick Reed Johnson, and again, he was the writer and director. This is his baby, and then we have excuse me, John Francis Daly, and then also Colleen Camp, and both were amazing actors and actresses in this picture. I mean, if highly complimentary. Again, you have to see it. And then just some movie moments. Mm-hmm. And of course, Space 1999 is represented in this film. He actually, the effects, the movies that he had for this, he actually recreated for this movie because unfortunately he was saying a lot of his films were lost.
Right.
So what they did was they recreated the films. I guess he did a Planet of the Apes. What was it? Requiem for Planet of the Apes, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Space, what was it? Space 2009, I think it was.
Space 2000.
Space
2000. Yeah.
And another duel.
Another duel. Yes.
Yeah.
Duel. Yeah. I mean, how cool is that?
Well, it's kind of funny because even the films we worked on, even if they were original, most of them had that kind of derivative quality to them. Like even Omelette, which is totally original, was totally steeped in Raiders kind of thing.
Right, exactly.
But the thing about watching this movie, 5/25/77, at first I had this like uncanny feeling about it. It's very strange, and I couldn't figure out what it was because there's so many levels of special effects going on in the thing. And they talk about it in the commentary. They have the deliberately cheesy effects. They have the recreation of the effects that he would have done back in the 70s, and then they had digital effects that you weren't supposed to notice so much.
Right.
But there was some of that digital tomfoolery as far as messing with the speed of people's performances. What they did was he kind of like split screened it, and you didn't notice it.
Mhm.
but there'd be 3 different performances going on there, and he'd kind of synchronize them. And then he would add people later and stuff. So I was sensing that even if I couldn't quite make out what it was, there was something that was not quite landing in the right place. And I thought that it was just the whole zany, recreation of the effects and his whole fantasy world of the science fiction and everything that got me.
But he did such a good job with it, and he talks about that in the commentary.
Yeah,
and it's amazing. And Joe, it actually reminds me too of one of the films that you were, I think it was with Omelet, where there's a scene where myself and then I guess it's with my girlfriend in the movie, Judy, and we're walking, and I think also with Ray and Janet, the 4 of us are walking through, and then what happens is we come across Ross and Shara, and then also with Joe, and that scene with them you actually inserted because you filmed it at another point in time, so it was like that editing, and then we had to react to it, which was kind of cool. So it's kind of like the same thing, and that's that's Hollywood also, because a lot of times you have a stand-in or somebody's not there, and you're reciting dialogue, and then they're essentially shooting you, you're looking into the camera, but you're talking to somebody that's off screen that's reading the lines, and it's not even the moment going on.
The magic of cinema. I remember my continuity notes. I always had that like clipboard there and all those continuity notes. Where are we filming this from, and what were people wearing on this day?
So,
which Adidas shirt was Roy wearing?
Yes, exactly. I think
that was the joke in Sunny Side Up, because I had like 4 or 5 Adidas shirts that I would wear. That was like my wardrobe. That was so much fun.
They wore the wrong one.
Yeah, and actually, I just want to show another slide real quick here, what was really cool is Patrick Reed Johnson actually plays his dad in the film, and I thought that was very interesting. And that had to be unusual for him to do, and he talks about in regards to John Francis Daley playing the part, but he said it's not really him, but it's him. It's him, Patrick, as a youngster. And what he was even saying in the commentary is, as far as that being him now, that is not the same person. Just like the person then would not be who he is, because obviously the passage of time, and it's kind of like with us. Although a lot of times, when we think in terms of that, I don't know. Sometimes I think, okay, how much have we really changed? But we really have. And then also on the right is the actor playing his friend Bill, which was playing the movie theater guy, but that was actually his friend that was in real life, and that was the real Bill, so to speak. So I just thought that was really cool. But anyway, we'll definitely talk more about this movie and get into it. But I think it's cool that if we start to springboard, because the time is going to go by really quick. We could probably talk all night about this this film and the nostalgia and everything that goes with it. But one thing, we have a few people that are going to be joining us too. We have Matt Anthony that is out there, and we also have Joe Brickman is going to be joining us too. So they're both out there. So guys, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring them in just to talk about this. And then also yesterday, unfortunately, John Risco, who had done movies with Joe and myself, and also Ross, the 3 of us, he wasn't able to be here live, but he did record with Joe and myself last night. So we will share recording. But before we do that, I think it would be great just to bring in Matt first. Mr. Matt Anthony. Matt, welcome.
Hello, gentlemen. Before we begin, I'd just like to mention there's a new wine from Paul Mitham. It's a nice little vintage if anyone wants to check it. If you're thinking of a Burgundy, they'll sell no wine before it's time. So, hey, how's it going, gentlemen?
Hey, Matt. Thanks for joining us. And then also we have joining us is Joe Brickman. And Matt's joining us from Pennsylvania. Joe's joining us from California. So welcome,
Hi,
Matt.
Joe.
Welcome, Joe.
Hello,
Hey,
hello.
Joe, Matt.
Wow, 2 people I haven't seen in many, many years.
It's been a while, hasn't it?
It has been a while. Absolutely.
1981.
I'm still remembering.
Well, the last time I saw.
Still remembering you and your Imperial Slimes new outfit there.
Yes, right, exactly. I think we have a picture of that coming up later. No, I think.
Oh yeah.
Matt, probably the last time I saw you was in the mid '80s, and Joe maybe a little bit later than the mid '80s, but still not late '80s probably for both of you, right?
Yeah, I think we were either late '80s, early '90s, somewhere in there. Yeah,
somewhere in there. Yeah.
Where has time gone? So with that said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share some photos. Ross was kind enough to provide these, and these we'll start with these. And this is back from Ross's movie that he did and was Intervors. Ross, when was this filmed? Actually,
I think I was writing it. I think we started filming it in the summer of '80.
Okay.
I wait a minute. I know definitely. No, I don't. It's funny because I have got all this stuff. I hang on to everything, and I have sign-up sheets for it, but I don't have the year. And I found this too, which was hanging up.
Whoa!
There was a little sign-up sheet. It says eighth graders wishing to receive
Eighth and
parts in
ninth.
the film. What's that?
8th and 9th grade. What year was that?
Yeah, so
80, 81.
Yeah, it would have been the summer of 80.
81,
probably.
yeah.
80. Yeah.
So, yeah, because Empire Strikes Back was in the theaters when we
Yep.
were doing it. So anyway, yeah, so so 4/17, everybody convened for the cast, and then on the 24th, that's when the crew met. But we didn't film until summer. And it's funny because I have sign-up sheets with all the people that we knew, with all their names on the sheets. I just came across them yesterday. I still have them.
Ross, you forgot to put at the bottom in the asterisk. It's a great way to get out of study hall.
This was an absolutely classic sci-fi epic. I mean, I have to just heap my praise upon Ross for this absolutely amazing film. The script was so funny. It was the most wry and just amusing and hilarious script I had ever read, and it was so wonderful to be a part of it. And Matt was in it as an absolutely classic actor. I mean, this was like top-notch stuff. So I just have nothing but wonderful feelings about this film.
Well,
The Hague is commenting. He's saying, "This is very nice, guys. Wish I knew you guys back in the day."
I had a question for Ross. What was the name of the film that you were making with the black and white Super 8?
Oh, Man and Thin Man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that
still
was
remember
the
going
film.
around to every camera shop in the Lehigh Valley and finally finding the last 3 reels at that place on, I forget what street it was. The guy had it back in the refrigerator. What's this?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
kept
back
in the
in the
refrigerator. It wasn't the
freezer
freezer. Kept in the refrigerator. I beg your pardon.
Yeah, in the refrigerator. And I think it was fairly damned expensive. I think those rolls were like 20 to 30, somewhere in that range.
I believe it. I know the regular ones were expensive, but when you were purchasing black and white film, that was going to be even more so. You would think it would be cheaper, but it's just not the way it worked.
I had a lot of fondness for that one. That was if I could preserve 3 scenes from my films, one of them would have been the one that we shot in your house.
Oh, yeah, it was a great scene. With the film noir, the shot of her going up the staircase and turning around by the light fixture.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite scenes that we did. Yeah,
I tried to do a black and white film in college, but I could neither find nor afford the film. So I just tried to do lighting. Everybody dress in dark clothes and do lighting and shadow and film it all in type G to imitate black and white, but it failed. It did not work.
Yeah.
You know what's really ironic, guys? You could probably do it now, like on your iPhone.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, and it would be a lot better probably. But
there's something to be said about using one of these. This is
Oh yeah.
one that I used back from 1980. This was my 8th grade graduation present from my parents.
Wow. Yeah, and there were projects that consumed our summers, like Joe's omelet. You know, how long was that? 10 minutes? 15? How long was that?
I think it was like 15 to 17 minutes, but it took all summer to write, design, film, edit, etc. Yeah.
Special effects, the scratching of the film, and
lightning bolts.
Scratching the film.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I remember sitting around with Jim Doria, scratching and markering the film with like the different colors. Like, oh, you got to get a different color marker here.
Yeah. For people that don't know, this would create like on the film laser effects and things of that sort. You'd have to go through frame by frame.
It was
24 frames per second.
18 for Super 8. But I remember reading about this in Starlog. That's how I got the idea for doing the lightning bolts with scratching on with the razor blade and stuff, because Starlog was always giving these tips about how to design your own special effects, right? And that was one of the tips they gave, and I'm almost certain that's how I first got the idea to do that. Yeah, we probably all got the idea from the same place, right?
And they did, and Spielberg does it in The Fabelmans. He scratches the film.
Does he really?
Yeah, like we used to do.
I remember using a pin to do it. And
a pin or a razor blade. Yeah.
Mhm.
So Joe, you were in Brickman. You were in Omelet. You were in Sunny Side Up.
Yep.
You were in a lot of these things.
Yeah, those were
Last
the good
plot.
days.
The
You
last
were in
plot.
all three, Joe. You were in all three, right? You were in Omelet, Gorgeous Guy, and Sunnyside.
I think I was. Yeah, I think I was. I think you're right.
Yep,
Yeah.
you were.
No, you weren't Gorgeous Guy, because actually I have a photo of you from that, Joe.
I
And
forgot.
And then also the last plot too. He was in that too, Joe.
No, the last plot. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. No, and you were fantastic in all of them. I mean,
I was just willing to do anything. It didn't matter.
I mean, the Wizard of Space and Time.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Dr. Chosen Soup.
Dr.
Dr. I mean, that was an absolutely unforgettable performance. It's too bad you can't show that. The fright wig, I remember the fright wig, and
speaking of performances, I'm going to start showing some sharing the screen here. So let's take a look. There's Ross back in the day.
There I am. As Jeff Morgan.
Oh my God!
And there's Jim on the right. You remember? And now we made so many films with Jim. Also, he's somebody that we really probably should have asked to come on, because he was the other big film guy. But we always sure to, when Jim was in the movie, to include a cute robot.
Crouton Jones.
It was Jim Crouton Jones with the guy.
Crouton Jones. Oh my God, these names are coming back. Wow. Goodness.
Yeah. And we had all stop motion stuff with that little robot that he's got there. Yeah.
Ross, you have the moves down pat. You really let that. You have the space smuggler, the sort of.
The irony
Ross has it going on.
The irony is that I was the supposed to be the innocent, corrupted by Matt's character. Art imitates life. Yeah.
Oh man.
Because Matt was Captain James Antilles. There he is.
There he is.
Oh yeah, that's right.
With the cabo tank, and Matt had one of the great entrances in my movies, because classical music always had an influence on everything I did, even back then. And I had this music for Matt's entrance, which was Franz Liszt's Le Prelude, and it's such a pompous, grandiose piece of music. And Matt comes makes his entrance, and he's walking down the corridor in this outfit, this uniform, and right at the most elevated point of the music, he trips, and we take the shot from 50 different angles and edit it together to listen to the prelude as Matt hits the floor again and again and again.
I remember that scene. Actually, that scene was done in the librarian's.
Yeah. So
that scene was done in the librarian's office, Mrs. Locke, and I was holding an empty liter of Gilby's gin, and we had the whole all of her drawers stocked with prop booze bottles, because Antilles was an notorious alcoholic. And she was super concerned when she came in after managing the project and had all these booze. She's like, "Oh my God, what kind of project is this?"
We were
to explain to her that they were just props. These are just props. Wink, wink.
Just props. It's not the real thing.
Yeah.
Hey, I just want to say hi to Warren. Warren's joining us. He commented, David Lynch makes a cameo in Fabelmans.
All right, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. And also Eva is joining us. Joe, Eva Lantos.
Hi, Eva. Long time no talk.
Hey,
How are
say
you?
hi, everyone. So sorry late tonight. It's okay, Eva. Thanks for joining. We're having some nostalgia here tonight. And then now the photos I have up are from Joe, and
Yeah, that's Joe in our film. Yeah.
the Imperious slime suit and Shrimko Floresmore.
Yep, Shrimko Floresmore on the right with the crazy hat and the boots and everything. And I remember filming in the summer for Intervorison wearing the slime suit costume, which was like a winter coat and this helmet and stuff. It was so hot. Hi, Eva. It is so nice that you're on here. We should catch up sometime. I was like sweating in there. It was completely insane. I don't know how I didn't pass out. Right. All I can say is, tell Megatov to meet me here.
Which is a photo there where you're rehearsing that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, you were one of the actors that always really dug in when you did your lines. You really delivered them theatrically.
And you know what? I remember hearing these lines over and over and over again.
I should like to meet your boss. Yes. We're gonna do it like Joe does it though.
And the thing I loved about this script was that I love how, like, at the end of that line, I still remember it. The last part when I'm supposed to tell him to meet me here, right? And then at the end I say I shall expect him shortly. There's no indication of time, right? There's no shortly. It could be any time, the next 5 minutes, the next hour. I love the script because it was so funny in that way, right?
Probably unintentionally so. I can't let you look at it now because we're gonna go right into this.
Yeah, I'm gonna just share some of the. Well, I can come back to this. You know what?
Because you might. I don't know if you want to do Risco or
yeah, I'll come back to this because I
although you've got everybody here now, so. But yeah. So Joe again skewering the pomposity or we were always subverting everything in the film, and so the bad guy was called the Imperious Slime Snoot, and what was he? And Matt brought this whole party ethos to the thing because originally I was going to do the straight sci-fi thing, but then it became kind of melded with that whole 70s, 80s like kind of slob comedy like Animal House. So somehow we melded Star Wars and Animal House, I think, in some way with a lot of our movies.
So what I want to do next is I'm going to put up the recording with John Risco because, like I said, he was on last night. So that's going to be about 15 to 20 minutes. So we're going to do that, and then what I'll do is I'll come back with you guys. So let me just gear this up, and we will show that. And again, John Risco was a part of all these movies and everything, and it was great to actually have him on. And I wish he could have been here tonight, but he actually is having band practice. So, and that's something John is very, very, very extremely passionate about his music. So it was really cool that he could just make the time to come on. And let me share that, and we will go right to that. Wow. How are you guys doing tonight? I want to welcome this special recording to the show. We have John Risco and Joseph Metz. Guys, how are you? Welcome.
How's everybody doing?
Guys, I'm just going to expand the screen. You're going to be put into an area, so just know that you're still there. But I'm just going to so the viewers can see the screen a little larger. Okay, so just so you're aware.
It's a blast from the past. A blast from the past.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh.
Did we lose Roy?
Roy, we can't hear you.
Uh-oh, where'd he go?
He'll be back.
Last spot, and that was when he filmed back in grade school, and we were in the 8th grade. And I just thought about talking about that. Do you recall that?
I have
No pressure.
big fragments of memories of some of these things. I remember being at Joe's house with my guitar and like smashing it on somebody, like up on someone's back, like, come on, move it, and what was the one we filmed parts of it in the elementary school?
That was the
Remember, passing out on some desk and throwing stuff everywhere.
Yeah. It was a lightly fictionalized version of our experiences.
There's a scene, John, I specifically remember.
It gave us plausible deniability. No, it's just a movie. Yeah.
Joe, school, but there was a whole thing where this food fight. It was almost like a tribute to Animal House, where this whole scene, everybody's throwing the food and going crazy, and then there's one scene, Joe does a close up, and I wish you could know it, and you're holding this. I don't know if it was just food, and he just
Banana. It was a banana.
Was it a banana? Yeah, and he just crushed it. I mean, he had this.
Exactly. We got the clearance, right? Because I went to the principal and I asked, would it be okay if we staged when the lunch session was over, if we went into the lunchroom when nobody else was there and just the cast of the movie, and we staged a food fight, right? As long as we cleaned it up afterwards. And they were so lenient. They were like, yeah, whatever. We all brought our food in, right? And then everybody was throwing the stuff, right? And the culmination of the scene exactly was you at the end standing up on your bench there with this banana and crushing it in your camera.
Oh, God, I'd like to see that. So, now that you mention it, I can I remember it, but yeah, I haven't thought about that in a number of years. Apparently, yeah, obviously. Wow.
Like the fictionalized version of reality.
Yeah, and the whole reason for this discussion, this was all brought up upon because there's a movie that was just released, and the film is called 52577, and it's a film that was done by Patrick Reed Johnson. Now, he is 4 years older than us, and we're really young. I mean, we're in our 30s, so he's probably only 34.
I'm in my 20s.
Kids.
Yeah, I'm just joking. But in all sincerity, his life was really influenced by movie making, and what he did was he actually made a documentary about it. It was like an 18-year project that was in the making, and it's been released on Blu-ray. It's been at some film festivals last year, but anyway, there's like a movie poster for it. So anyway, tonight's show is going to be talking about that on Friday because we're recording this ahead of time, and we'll be discussing this film and then also springboarding, which I thought was really a great idea because of how we did these movies back when we were growing up. And for him, he was influenced, as Joe was, 2001: A Space Odyssey, but then of course the big one was when he got to see Star Wars before it was even completed. And prior to that, he was making home movies and doing different types of sci-fi films. So after seeing that, I thought, wouldn't it be great to talk about his movie, but then also talk about the films that we did while we were growing up? And that's why I wanted you guys to be a part of this. But I just thought it'd be great. And John, it's so awesome to see you. I really appreciate you taking the time out to come on here.
Oh, sure, man. Yeah.
See, and one of the things, some of this stuff didn't end up in the film, that first film, The Last Plot that we're talking about. Some of the stuff didn't end up in it. But I mean, in a way, John, you were sort of inspirational for that film because I remember, I don't know if I should be saying this, but I remember in elementary school, you were like one of the rebels, you know what I mean? It's just exploits, inspired the anarchy of that film, right?
Yeah, I still remember some of the just dumb stuff I would do just out of boredom or let's see what happens,
Exactly.
Let's see if I can get away with something. So
exactly.
Yeah, I got caught a lot too. But
you've become legendary in this household because there's a certain always remembered, which I always tell my kids, right? Because I don't know if you're going to remember this or not, but one day we were in a class, I think 7th or 8th grade, and you were chewing gum in class, which was at that point supposedly strictly forbidden in the school.
Oh yeah.
And this teacher came up to you and said, "What's that you got in your mouth besides a tongue?" And you looked at her and paused, and you said, "A tongue."
I remember that was at a catechism class out in the parking lot at St. Philip and James in Peabody.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
School. It's
one brother who taught the one class oh yeah. He was all about the rules, and it's just So not me at the time.
It's so funny how these things morph, because I thought sure that it had taken place at our school, but whatever the case may be,
Yeah.
It
Well,
all comes back.
yeah. Could have. Yeah. It quite possibly could have happened multiple times. Because that was.
the time.
Yeah. I'm sure I didn't learn my lesson after the first one. So, what do we got now?
This was the credits to the film, an hour to live. This is what I subjected to John and Joe to, and it was the whole premise of this is this ship is going through space, and then what happens is they have to crash land, and then you guys are trying to get the ship repaired. Joe's trying to get the ship repaired. John, your character was Bill Stifler, and Joe's character's name was Jeff Wade. Do you remember that? Yeah.
I wish that were my actual name.
Really?
It's cooler than Joe Lentz, but yeah.
Lighting's
Jeff
really
Wade, the man of action.
Right, exactly.
You guys were the stars.
We were there. There was only 3 of us in the movie, though, right?
A cast of thousands.
In the bowels of the ship. Here's a shot of John. This is what, the summer of 1980. So what, 13? I guess 13. Yeah, he would have been 13.
Yeah, like 14 years old, something like that. Yeah, 14 that would have been.
Yeah. Oh my God. So yeah, and then I had the CB radios that we were using as communicators, and to like intercoms in the ship. And then there's Joe, is Jeff Wade. He had his fedora.
Yeah, we all got one at some point in the 80s.
Yep.
I had one.
And then there's John and I were walking around and checking out the planet's surface. And then Joe and John. Oh my God. Just a lot of running, a lot of doing, just trying to get this, mindless fun.
Look at my pants.
That's how spacemen dressed.
Yeah.
That's
horrifying.
That's it.
You wouldn't need to find aliens on that planet. Just look at those pants. I mean, that's
It's really funny though. I actually had this picture because there was a Star Trek photo of Kirk and Spock that was out where the two of them were like kind of looking out into the unknown, and I thought, how cool, I can get John and Joe, Stifler and Wade's to kind of have the same look and do the same thing with the clothes, and we never had the chance to do that shot. So maybe for the 50th anniversary, guys, we can really.
Exactly. I'd come back and play the role again.
Yeah.
Public is the man.
Was that the movie? Because I have a memory of somebody trying to add like a laser effect by like scratching individual frames of the film and like coloring it in, maybe, or just.
That's this. Yeah, that's exactly
this one, right?
Yeah. And the other film that I don't actually have, I don't have snippets of it, but the other thing that we did it the next summer. We filmed it at my parents again, and it in at the apartment. And actually, my mom and my dad are both in it too, which is kind of cool. Yeah, but I have to. I'm afraid to put it through the projector because it's really rackety. But you're like walking around at night and you're just doing your thing, and then all of a sudden you're like transported to this unknown world. And then Joe is this murderer that's coming after you, and he's trying to kill you. And you're like, what the heck is going on? And you don't know why.
Yeah, and what's my motivation? I was like a method actor. I needed to know my motivation.
Want him dead. What has he done?
Because John had the key of getting out of there. I remember doing that one shot. John was like up in a tree, and then I'm like filming behind him, and then you were like walking out in the distance. I was trying to do these special photographic shots, and then the one shot, Joe is walking, and I'm like doing it from his perspective, and you're going down this long path, and I'm just like walking with the camera. Yeah, and guys, speaking of the camera, here it is.
Oh, look at that piece of history.
Wow.
It's
Very
a
well maintained.
Super 8 camera. This thing has been preserved. I haven't had it in the original box since then. It was an 8th grade graduation present for my parents.
Wow.
And
Wow.
yeah, used to take Super 8 film would go for like 3 minutes and a half or 3 minutes and 20 seconds, and we would be editing and doing all that fun stuff with it. But yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
I remember begging my parents to finance my films because they also got me a camera like that as a present. But then, of course, you got to buy the films and get them developed. And so, please give me money to buy the film and get it developed.
those films were really expensive. Those Kodak, Kodak Kodachrome? It was like $5 for regular one. And then if you got like G, it was like $7.
Exactly, and in like the late 70s, early 80s, that was like a fortune, right? If you had to like buy 3 rolls of film, $15 plus the developing cost, that was like,
oh wow, I had no idea it was that much.
Oh yeah, it was crazy, but lots of fun. But
Wow.
yeah, John, we filmed that down in the back of where Joe Brickman lived in Brickley Park. When the second movie, what happened was we'd be like, we'd ride our bikes back there, and then all of a sudden you run out of like homes, and then there was all these like mounds and everything, and it was like dirt paths. It was a lot of fun to hang out back there and do all that stuff.
Oh yeah. There was a spot back there. A lot of kids rode like their BMX bikes or dirt bikes through there a lot of times as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I revisited. I wasn't aware of it, but at some point in the 80s, I revisited that place. Everybody's out there with kegs and carrying on crazy stuff, and slight bit of deja vu, but I don't know. It didn't register when I was there.
Yeah.
It's probably like fancy condos now or something, right?
Oh, sure, yeah. Now you mentioned, it's like, oh my God, I was back there. I didn't even realize at the time.
When you drive for continuous road and you don't even realize that's I don't know. It's kind of a shame.
Because I remember like back behind the houses when they had like the Brakely Park, right? That was like not Brakely Gardens was the one thing, but Brakely Park was the housing development, and like right where the houses end, there was like a little gap. You could go back like into the fields.
Right.
It was all undeveloped, right? Exactly.
Yeah. They were leaving that like the little opening for further development, and I'm sure it's been filled up by now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been back that way in ages.
It's funny because when my parents, when they came to the area, because how they were all the way in the back of the apartment. That area, those 3 buildings that were back there. Nobody actually had ever lived in those buildings when we got there, and that was November of '76. So that's literally like 46 years ago. It's insane the time that's gone on.
Yeah.
But anyway, and I also wanted to show another photo, and this is from the movie that you did with Joe, and this was up in by his house, and this was the gorgeous guy in the City of Women, and you had your guitar with you, and you were like playing and having a great time. And right in this photo right here is where you're at.
Yeah.
But
wow.
Yeah.
Look at that.
But anyway,
there was a lot of people involved in that one, wasn't there? There was quite a few people up there.
Yeah, I invited this whole huge cast because the idea was, the premise was it was sort of based, like it was like a weird, the beginning was like a weird reworking of 2001: A Space Odyssey. So like in the beginning where all those 8 people are jumping around, you guys were punk rockers and you were supposed to be like the prehistoric humans. And so like I invited this huge number of people up, and everybody was supposed to be like a punk rocker. You were the only one who actually was a musician, right? Everybody else just was faking it. But they were all supposed to be jumping around, like you with the guitar, and they tried to wear crazy clothes, right? And everybody was lying out in the dirt, like picking fleas off of each other's heads and stuff. Yeah, exactly. Right. And then everybody ended up in the house and we filmed other scenes. But yeah, there was a huge bunch of people. I had like 12, 15 people up there, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember all packing into like the dining room area and everything. There's a whole thing going around the table. Like,
exactly.
Yeah. Didn't we also do something with Ross? There were some apartment buildings right off of 22 in Palmer.
That's where you live.
Yeah. Because there used to be a car dealership right down below that hill. I don't know if we filmed anything or we were just up there committing all kinds of various acts of mischief during that time up there. But I'm sure that happened anyway. But, I can't remember if we filmed anything there or that was just going crazy.
Yeah.
One day or
he filmed it. I mean, he's going to be talking about it on the show, but he had done Inner Warzid, and that was done there. He thought he remembered you too, Johnny. You remember Ross, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I have a mental picture of Ross from that time period. You know, who knows if I recognize him today or not? I don't know.
Yeah. During the height of the pandemic, he had this massive beard, and I wouldn't have recognized him either. Now I think he shaved it off, and he looks more like he used to. But yeah.
And you know what's great? He shaved it off on the show.
Oh, really? Nice.
Special feature.
I can paste it on the top of my head. I'll take
It was a fucking time though. That was good. But anyway, I don't want to hold you guys up. I want to thank you both. You know, again for being on, John, especially because you took some special time out, and happy anniversary. Throw that out there.
Yeah, I remember. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. It just popped in my head like that was right after Star Wars had come out. Really, that really lit up a whole generation of people to all kinds of, whether it just be that genre of movie making, movies, or getting into movie making deeper and stuff like that. That really quite a game changer at the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I remember we used to draw a lot, and you were such a good artist, John. I remember the spatial designs you used to make when we were in elementary school.
Yeah.
Beautiful pictures. And you also invented this character that then I wrote a lot of stories about. I don't know if you remember this or not, but you invented this character called York Fasoni.
Yeah.
I fell in love with this, and I wrote all the stories, right, riffing on the York Fasoni character, right? And
Well, there was I just remembered one today, another one that you had written, the Eckham Zedham.
Exactly, because somebody tried to convince me that Zedham, the Eckham Zedham was my name spelled backwards, and Zedham I can get, right, because Z-T-E-M.
Right.
Eckham part, I never entirely understood it. I just okay.
But that was some pretty crazy stuff. We were reading that, like, oh my god.
Yeah, it was really good.
Oh, very wild imaginations at that age.
Creative flying. That is awesome.
Oh yeah.
That's the whole thing, though, about the crux of all this in regards to Star Wars was a game changer. I mean, it really did. It changed movie making. It changed television shows. It just really just took everything. It was groundbreaking. It took a lot of science fiction into a whole different direction because creation was there for it then.
I mean, yeah, even down to the score.
Yeah.
You never saw that, or heard that kind of thing in any other science fiction based movie. That was not in the Flash Gordon serials or any other movie like that. The werewolf movies, the vampire movies. Now you look at those kind of theme movies. There's all kinds of killer orchestrations and soundtracks going on. And Star Wars, that was just majestic. All those, the different themes they had for the characters, and they did every level to another level,
Yeah, it was absolutely transformational on all different levels, really, the visuals and what they did with the music. Yeah, and I mean, exactly. Like now, even when I go on streaming and I watch certain shows, right, like, streaming shows, and they have these scores, with a full orchestra and like motifs for every character and this sweeping score, and it's a I think to myself, without Star Wars, that never could have happened. this sort of lush orchestration that you can't even imagine for a TV production. Now it's like it's better than what movies used to be, right? Like,
right, yeah. You see just like the stunt, dum dum dum, like oh, here comes the bad guy, you know.
You just made me think of something. There was a movie that just came out recently. Well, recently, it was probably within the last 5 years, and it was a movie about what if the Beatles never existed?
oh yeah.
What if Star Wars
Oh, wow.
never existed? Right? What if Star
Right.
Wars never came out? What would have happened with the direction of
Jesus.
science fiction, science fantasy, television? How would it have impacted? That could be a discussion for another time. We could definitely do.
Yeah. Certainly, yeah. That's a deep thought process going on right there. Like, what would that look like?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe in an alternate reality, right? It happened.
There's some directors that really retroactively attacked Lucas and Spielberg for making film too commercial and making it too dependent on the blockbuster. And it's what they say it destroyed, certain aspects of cinema because, all the movies now have to be these special effects blockbusters and whatever. But I don't know if I fully agree with that. I mean, I think, it's like, there are pros and cons, right? I mean, of course, certain things happen that maybe were not so great, but also all kinds of wonderful things happen. So,
Yeah.
It's all about.
Again,
That's what I like to say.
you still have the romantic comedies and the comedies and thrillers kind of thing. That's suspense movies. But,
Oh yeah.
they've been around forever, that kind of thing. But it kind of kicked the showing that there was an ability to make things happen on a big, large, grand scale like that. Really, like you said, up the game for any kind of action movie.
What?
Everything as the effects got better and more refined, and people just kept pushing it to be more and more. Just
It really made it.
I can't think of the word. It's like, So I don't know.
An epic is
How is that bad?
Well, guys, I'm going to be winding down. I want to thank you again, John, for coming on. And
Thanks for having me on here, man. It's been a blast.
So, just want to say goodbye to everybody.
See you later.
Wow. How are you guys doing tonight? I want to welcome this recording. There we go.
Wow.
Again.
Well, that was pretty cool.
Wow.
Where'd Matt go?
Oh, we lost Matt.
After he sat through it, he just left.
He'll come back. So no, that was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, we had some garbling there with the audio, but for the most part, we could hear him okay. So yeah, that was pretty neat.
John Risco.
Yeah.
Like somebody I haven't seen in a long time. It occurred to me. It was funny when he said that like we were either filming or getting up to some mischief. There was an ample amount of mischief involved whenever we were making movies. Maybe not on Joe's set, but on my set, definitely.
I've repressed it all.
I guess having food fights in your school is pretty mischievous. Even
That's about as bad as it got.
So Joe, Brickman, were you in the last plot also? I don't remember.
I think I can't remember if I was or not. That was let me think. Was I in the plot? That was 8th grade, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I was actually in the last plot. That may have been one that I wasn't in.
Yeah.
I think I started after that, but I could be wrong, man. Man, my memory back then is starting to fade.
Oh yeah.
But-
You were just there if there was a camera. You said I
was there. I mean, I was. I don't think I was in it, unless I was in a small part and I just don't remember it.
I can't verify it because I haven't seen it myself in so many years. There's one small part that you may have been, but without going back and looking at it again, I wouldn't be able to tell for sure, right? I mean, I know it was Roy and Kathy who were like the main two people, and Ray played a certain role in there as well as the kissing bandit, right?
That's
Right. Oh my God. Yeah.
And John Risco, of course, smashing his banana and leading the food fight. But those were the main roles in that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. And then I remember, then as I was watching that clip, and then I don't know what made me think about it, but Joe, didn't you come up with a song? And for the life of me now, I'm trying to remember the words. It was one of those da 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 da.
Oh, well, that was actually a song based on Inner Vorzit, believe it or not. I had this crazy idea based on Ross's movie to do a musical version of Inner Vorzit, and I never really got very far, but I just started the first song or two, and you're right, you're absolutely right. It was a song, but it didn't have anything to do with my movies. It was this crazy idea to set Inner Vorzit to music. It was the Federation is in a situation.
Oh my goodness.
That's what it was. And I know it didn't have anything to do with the movies, but that's right. The Federation. Starting to remember it all. Yeah.
Joe, that's pretty. Joe Brickman. I'm sorry because we have two Joes here, but that's pretty cool that you remember that. And it's funny now when Joe started singing that actually struck a chord where I actually remember that. But my God, that good memory, Joe, of remembering it.
I don't remember much, but sometimes when I finally.
And oh, by the way, Eva commented and said that she thought you were in both of those movies, Joe.
And that,
so,
that may be the case. That may be the case.
Yeah.
In all the movies, I'm saying both.
No, I mean, I know absolutely you were in all three of the ones that I did later, you know,
yeah,
and prominently in.
But I remember if I was in the last plot or not.
Yeah.
So that was the introduction to Joe and his his artistry.
And I have to say, Joe Brickman was actually the keeper of the gate. He had those movies for the longest time too.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I did for a while. That's right.
It's true. I sort of passed those reels around for a long time, and then only recently I sort of got them back again. And I'm not even entirely sure why I kept passing them around, but I did for a while. Yeah.
So trusting, considering nobody ever had a negative back then. It was just you had the film. That was it. You know?
Sure.
Yeah. And for anybody who's watching that doesn't know this already, you know, there was a Phillipsburg, New Jersey contingent, and there was an Easton, Pennsylvania contingent and there was some cross. You know, the reason I got to know Roy and everybody is they came over, you know, to do movies with me, and I would go over there and do movies with Joe. But when they talk about the school with the last plot, what have you, I was not in that school, you know, so I wasn't part of any of that.
Do you guys remember? And I don't think Joe Brickman was a part of this, but I think Joe Metz was, and I think you were too, Ross, where you remember that story, the ship, it was called the Leviathan. In fact, I know Ross and I were talking about it, and I remember we were filming over at the I think it was Northampton, the college, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we were doing some stuff over there.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen the clips from that because you said I have my whole Rick Deckard outfit, my Blade Runner outfit on.
Yeah.
And I don't recall. I remember when you were working on that, but I don't remember the scene that we did. I remember I rewrote a scene. I have a scene that I wrote for the movie. That I don't know if we ever used it or not. But.
I remember filming at the college. I don't know why, but I somehow remember that.
Okay, so and I think that it was probably like had to be the early 80s, obviously.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was your movie or Ross's movie, but I do remember being up there. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, Matt's back. Hey, I'm bringing you in, Matt.
Bring Matt back. Bring back Matt.
Bring back Matt.
And as for the two schools, which were situated on opposite sides of the river, right, one in New Jersey and one in Pennsylvania, I can't speak for the whole New Jersey contingent, but I know I was the one who was always envious of you guys in Pennsylvania. It's like, all the cool people are over there. I want to go to the Easton parties.
Well, I remember when Joe would talk about it, he'd say, yeah, I was down there with Ross and everything, and going on about Easton.
And the Easton side used to have those great musicals over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So good. That incredible staging.
Oh, yeah. Matt was in the musicals.
Yeah.
Well, that was the exception to being good, but
Matt, didn't you do Where's Charlie?
Yeah.
Where's Charlie?
Matt was in Anything Good?
Yes, Where's Charlie? My God.
Yeah.
I had to disappear there. I had to disappear there for a while. I want to explain. This is something only Ross is going to get. There was a problem in the basement.
Oh, okay. There you go.
That I had to take care of.
Oh, nice.
and a Chinese landlord is involved.
We could talk about it later.
Anyhow, Yes, where's Charlie? I was in it. And I must say, Joe, for not seeing you for 30 plus years out of that Imperious Slime Snoot helmet, I thought the hideous scarring and disfigurement would be much worse.
It's pretty bad. I mean, it's pretty bad as it is. But I've been in the Bacta tank. You know, it's like
My
Boba Fett.
weakness has left me hideously scarred and disfigured. But anyhow, you're looking good.
Attack of the Jedi has left me disfigured and scarred.
Yeah.
I'm waiting
Look
for
at
the
that.
lightning bolts to
Everybody
come out.
I'm remembering that you were talking about that dialogue, and you had the way you had said, "Meet me right here." You pointed. Anyhow, that was great.
It was a funny script. It was so hilarious.
Well, you're very complimentary about it. At least I finished it. It was like the thickness of a phone book. It was ridiculous. Well, how was it? It's like you had the right idea to just do a 16-minute movie.
This is a story I've told you many times, Ross, but I'll repeat it here. And that is, I loved your Inner Vorzid script so much that I borrowed it from you and literally went home and copied it out word for word, even though it was like 100 pages long. And so, I got this big stack of loose leaf paper, and I sat there at my dining room table and meticulously copied out every bit of the script so that I could have I didn't even occur to go to a copy shop, right, and make a photocopy, but I sat there meticulously and copied out every page so that I could read it anytime I wanted to, because I loved it so much. Yeah.
You should have used the iPhone, Joe. You could have taken pictures.
Yeah, right. The 70s iPhone.
Because you have to invent
a time machine.
Yeah.
80s iPhone. Yeah, right.
Thank you,
Ross. I remember at one point we had to justify to the school all of what we were doing with all of this time that we got out of the study halls. So we had to do a preview screening of Inner Vorzid in the Shawnee Elementary, and Mrs. Locke was there and all, for the screening.
Right.
And I'm sure you remember it. It of course opens with the tagline of Inner Vorzid. You remember the tagline?
Yeah. That I came up with for that trailer. Wait, which one? The more you see it, the more you see it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Is that the one?
Yeah, I remember that. It's like then the lights come on. It's like this is what they've been doing.
It was a riff from the Star Wars re-release tagline, which was like, the more you see it, the better it gets, right? And when they would re-release Star Wars, they would have that trailer, right? Because they wanted to encourage people to go to the re-release and see it over and over again. But your version was so much better. The more you see it, you can't argue with that logic, right? The more you see it, the more you see it.
Yeah. And we showed it to the PTA or whatever it was. They had all these people come in to see this trailer. Okay.
Yeah, it was great. And the little curved auditorium.
I remember with the last plot, didn't we go into the gymnasium and for the 8th grade we were in the 8th grade, and it was
a public screening
in the gymnasium and we saw the last plot there.
Yeah, we had a public screening, and I remember being there with my tape recorder with the soundtrack, which had various Baroque music on it as the soundtrack, right? And the voice tracks, and then stopping and starting the tape recorder because the film and the tape were never quite in sync, right? And always having to sort of meticulously start it so that eventually the voices would match up with the characters as well as possible. But yeah, it was an ordeal, but it was fun. Yeah.
It was all Handel's music for the Royal Fireworks.
It was, exactly. I thought nothing paired better with middle school or elementary school melodrama, right, than this very stately Baroque music. I thought the more anarchic things got on the screen, the more stately and calm the music had to be. That was my idea.
Yeah, see that to me, you love Inner Vorzid, but I think the last plot is you can't touch it. That was the best one for me. I wasn't even involved with it. But you did lend it to me. I did have it for a while. Yeah.
That's so funny. That a lot of people have said, Roy has said this too, really loving the last plot. And it's funny because I always kind of wasn't as I know it was my first one, but that's sort of why it made me feel not quite as connected to it, because I thought I thought my techniques whatever it was, right, such as it is, got better as it went along. I mean, it was never great, but I thought I got better at filmmaking as it went along. But the last plot seems to be a nostalgic favorite for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, you had all that anarchy, like Risco squeezing the banana.
Anarchy was fun.
Controlled anarchy.
And let me ask you this: now that I have you here, what's this deal with the gorgeous guy in the City of Women, which was my project? What happened? Did I say you could use the title, or what happened with that?
I probably stole it from you.
Because I remember that, it's like, wait a minute, gorgeous guy in the City of Women was because the Fellini movie was out, City of Women,
City of Women, right?
And I decided I was going to do gorgeous guy in the City of Women, but my conception was kind of different than yours.
Yeah, and Prince of the City was out at the same time too, and that was another title that. Yeah, Ross, I honestly don't know. I have no idea whether we were like talking about the title, and I, in my typical way of that time, sort of played fast and loose with the creative permission to use the title.
I stole plenty from you, but I wonder if it was one of those things where I said I'm never going to do this, or you like the title, and I said I'm never going to do it. Why don't you just do it, or whatever? Yeah, because we did that plenty of times.
Don't worry, Joe. Don't worry, Joe. He stole it off of himself again, and second year English and got an A anyway.
It's true.
Now we can submit the story again. Hit a box of 500 stories that we carry around in the dorm. It's like, I ain't doing any work this year.
So I'll throw a title out there. I was going to make a sequel. I never did, but so the title, in case anybody wants to steal it, was going to be "Proportion, Not the Cause of Beauty in Vegetables." So
there you go. You can have that one.
Took a lot of
yeah.
At least
but,
it was the
working
the other thing is, as Matt said, we're always writing stories. At the same time that we're doing these movies, we're writing these books, and the books were either based on the movies were based on the books, or they were parallel. So there was a lot of cannibalization there.
And I think a lot of it was. I think a lot of it was just really liking each other's projects, right? Because I know I would get so enthusiastic about something that one of you guys was doing that I just couldn't resist, somehow riffing on it and doing my own version, right? And I think that was probably the case in the other direction. It kind of reminds me of the Middle Ages, like all those Middle Age, the bards of the Middle Ages who riffed on these themes, right? And they would sort of wander through the countryside, and everybody would have their version of the particular theme, right? And then they would have these sort of contests, right? Whose theme, who developed it in the most interesting way, right? But originality wasn't so much the issue; it was sort of the love of the particular topic and how to do variations on it. But yeah.
Well, one of the things I was kind of surprised about, but Ross remembered when I wrote this story about this kid that goes back in time on his bicycle. And he's trying to save his dad's life, and Ross remembered that, and it was before Back to the Future.
Yeah, because he meets his own dad and everything.
Yeah, and he
had you know what else I remember, Roy? I have to give a shout out to this. You know what I'm going to say?
I know what you're going to say.
Right? Yeah. Roy's amazing unfinished play, right? This was so good. The last performance. This never got performed, right? But Roy's amazing unfinished play where this guy comes out on a stage and he just falls down on the stage and lies there for an hour immobile. And then the curtain comes down and that's the end of the play. I always thought that was so cool.
It's the Dick Shawn story.
Yeah, the last performance of Dick Shawn, man. He fell into the garbage pile. Everybody thought he was joking. He was dead. He used to play this bum who would wander through the garbage, and do this one-man show. And then finally his son goes, "Oh, wait, it's over 15 minutes. Something's wrong."
Oh, no.
He was dead. The funny thing was he was dead.
So it turns out Roy is like Samuel Beckett. We never knew.
Oh, by the way, Roy, I wanted to say, Roy Belquist, he makes you feel he's a cool exec with the heart of steel, but Iron Man, all jets of blaze will fight and fight with. I'm sorry. Keep working on that beard.
Ultraman.
So clearly, this has just become the biggest inside joke of all time. Nobody's watching. If anybody is watching, knows what the hell we're talking about.
It's the anchor beard.
I want to welcome Craig. Craig, is out there and he's saying he's sorry. He's like, no, thanks, Craig, for joining us. We've kind of covered a lot tonight, and then we kind of digressed a little bit, but we're.
Yeah.
We're going to be wrapping things up shortly.
Like what Joe said about the bards is very interesting because I was reflecting on this when I was writing the post to preview tonight's show between Roy and Joe and myself, just the movies we made, not including Jim, who's the other guy. We really churned out like an amazing amount of material. Whether some of it was unfinished, some was finished, but I mean, we were just throwing out ideas. It was such a fertile time and area, and I always thought if we had stayed there, we might have made something of ourselves. We all got dispersed. But I mean, alone, I mean, I just jotted down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, I've got like 9 things here that I worked on, and in fact, they were all except for Road to Insanity. Matt wrote this Bing Crosby, Bob Hope road picture that had a hilarious script. Bing and Bob would have never got away with filming this one, but we never actually filmed.
Completely unfilmable.
Yeah, unfilmable. Yeah, well, unshowable.
Yeah, unfilmable.
School.
Unshowable.
Yeah, but that was the script that Matt wrote for that. But we did do a film called the Pterodactyls, and Matt and I were both in it, and Roy was in it apparently.
Yeah, downtown Easton.
So
but I'll tell you, but there were movies that I mean, there are lines that we came up with that you still remember today.
Uh-huh.
I mean, do you remember? See if you can remember where this came from. You remember "Whip Me, Beat Me, Use Me, and Abuse"?
How could I forget?
Like, or something. I mean, I remember
even experimental doxycycline.
Yeah,
which isn't even experimental, but in any case.
Oh, it just took us so long to figure that out. And then I remember looking into one of the books or something my parents had, and we came up with doxycycline. It's like,
exactly. How can I possibly forget? How could I? And your psychiatrist's office, right? Your fake psychiatrist's office, and your stethoscope and the fright wig, and it's so classic, so classic.
Oh man, I always wanted to do the Ron White routine where he gets stopped and he says, what's your name? He says tater salad. I always wanted to say, hey, what's your name? Chosen Soup. Always wanted to do that.
So these occupied our summers largely, but I remember more than one occasion where woke up in the morning, hey, it's snowing, let's make a movie. Do you remember any of these things? We'd hurry up and write a script, and it's like, hey, can you get over to my house? I want to shoot some scenes in the snow. Yeah. We did that movie Smuggler's Den. Do you remember that, where you came out to Gateway, Joe?
Well, I remember when you, in the winter, in the dead of winter, you and your special effects guy Hunts, right? Hunts. And he wired up, all the trees with M80s and cherry bombs and fuses connecting to everything. And it's like, this is going to be safe. It's going to be a laser battle. We'll animate the lasers afterwards, and they're going to be hitting these trees, and the trees will be getting shot, and there'll be like bark flying. And so he lit all these things, and the firecrackers and the M80s and the cherry bombs are going off, and pieces of wood and shrapnel are flying all over the place. I'm like running through there trying to not get hit by this. I think my hearing I couldn't hear for like 3 hours after the scene, right? It's like safety first. How can I forget?
Hey, it was old school, Joe.
I don't know if you remember this, Joe, but one night, Ross, myself, and a couple of our compadres conquered all of Lupacon Township with a couple of quarter sticks of dynamite and some bottle rockets.
Well, we talk about that tonight, though. Even though the statute has run out.
What?
If I recall, we may have been taken in front of a judge for that.
And I remember using special effects, using sparklers on the electrical gauges. In fact, Ross and I were watching one of the on the meters. We were actually watching one of the films the other day, and you lit them up, and it was like an engine panel was like exploding. Joe, you did that with Omelet when things were going out, and then I did that in the basement down by my parents.
And my all-time favorite special effect when when Ross's head was supposed to explode, right? And we had him stand in front of this, like, this little pole that had a container on the bottom. And I took a big watermelon and carved it out and put like all kinds of tomatoes and pieces of styrofoam in it, and then put the top back on. And my dad stood like off screen with a rifle, right? And basically shot the watermelon and blew it to pieces, right? And it had been positioned to be exactly where Ross's neck ended. And then we cut the frame, we cut the scene, so that Ross was standing there, and then suddenly his head blew up and it was cut to the watermelon, and basically all the pieces flew all over the place, right? And it was, to my mind, that was my special effects triumph, but I can't really take much credit for it because it was actually my dad who shot the watermelon. Right?
little wish fulfillment there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, honest, we're going to cut the film. We're going to cut the film.
and the rest of the family has been in therapy ever since.
No, that was a coup. Yeah, blowing my head up. Yeah, I enjoyed that. Yeah, and then the other thing was, all right, we had the original films that we did on our own, and then we had films that we did for class projects, because Roy and I came across a film that you did as a kind of a prelude to a stage performance of Bye Bye Birdie over in Phillipsburg.
Yeah,
we had stuff where, like, what do you remember something, Matt?
I could never get my hands on that 10-minute abstract psych project I did for Chivarella.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Bright color, and I think Jim stole it.
Yeah. We're always stealing each other's movies.
I'd love to get my hands on that, because that was actually pretty well done.
Yeah. And then there was that Marx Brothers comedy I did for psych class.
Yep.
Remember where you played Harpo?
Yeah, that's right. We did a lot of that in the basement.
I was Groucho.
Out on about Palmer Park Drive.
Palmer Park. Right. Yeah, it was The Analyst. Marx Brothers in a psychological setting, I guess. Yeah, there were all kinds of things, abandoned projects, scripts that we wrote. I was trying to think of like the first thing we did. I think the first thing you and Jim and I did was remember Iranian Fantasy? We called it Iranian. Yeah. We call it Iranian Fantasy today, but it's Iranian Fantasy that we did. Our first experimental film. Matt needs a drink for this one.
Right on cue, Matt.
I will sell no wine before it's time. Oh yes, I do remember that, but I don't details on that are
you don't remember that? Oh, good. I won't go into it then, because I thought for sure you would recreate the ending, but I'm glad that
something must have blown up. So no, what was the ending? I'm now baffled.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
You can't get into this.
That's what I thought.
No, I'm trying to remember what was the film that had a certain individual in the basement with the grapes and was that Pterodactyls? Was that the end of Pterodactyls?
Yeah, right. Where again we can't do the ending.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. Yeah. Well, I know Roy's got a short fuse tonight, so I'm not going to push
it. Yeah. Anyway,
but that was Pterodactyl.
Straight on, we were pretty much doing these things.
Yeah. But I don't remember the end of whatnot. Well, we were supposed to do the other thing that was Attack of the. I can't mention that now because that's sensitive, so forget it. I can't mention any of these movies because they're all sensitive and politically incorrect. Next.
Matt gets next.
Right.
Anyway,
but they were all written with a bouncy C.
I actually had a desire. I had this crazy idea during the pandemic to reunite everybody and try to make a movie at a long distance, and everybody would sort of film their parts on their phones and then send them, and somehow I would figure out a way here to edit it all together into a film. But I never went through with it because it ended up seeming too difficult, and the script would be too contrived, right? I thought, you call everybody back together, but it's not going to really work because all the different formats, and is it going to? Will people really do them and film their scenes? And even if they do, how am I going to really put it together in any way that's not going to look too contrived? And
Joe, I think you're on the mark. You're on the mark, Joe, man. You guys giving up on that, Tish. I didn't want to go to Tish at Tony 3. Grandma Moses started painting when she was, I don't know, she was ancient. But anyway, I think you got them. You're on. I think we should remake all these movies. Just re-script them all and do them the way they were meant to be done, and throw in as much egregious crap as you want to throw in. Because look at Lucas. He goes back and screws everything up over and over and over and over again. So
doing special editions.
I
think you're on the right track.
I'll make one called geriatric omelet. We bring it up. Bring us all back together.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, and the tagline could be geriatric omelet. You got to whip the eggs till they're really stiff.
Yeah, that's it word. That's it word. I did not write that line.
Yes. Anyway, we're going to start to wind down, guys. On that note, because I know the direction we're going.
There you go.
There we go. And of course, we are broadcasting on YouTube. So now I'm going to probably get shut down.
Well,
fortunately, he wasn't anywhere near to correct, so it'll be fine.
Yeah, you're right.
It's parody and tribute.
Yeah, there we go. Anyway, tribute to the gods. But guys, I want to say, here we go. Jack Daly, thanks for joining us. Tiny Tim, eat your heart out. And John the Hague just said that was pretty good. Yes, it was. Matt is very talented. Martin said, with the price of eggs, you're going to need a mortgage to do that movie. Anyway.
Yeah, right.
Joe, Matt, I want to say thank you. It was great seeing you. And I'm going to kind of
great seeing you again, Joe, after so many years. And I've only seen you on one of the previous broadcasts, but not live.
Oh, nice to see you, Matt. Very nice to see you again after all this time. And Joe, we have to get back in touch. Send me your new phone number, or send Roy your new phone number, and he'll send it to me, et cetera, et cetera.
I will do that. Well, Roy still has it. So yeah.
Roy has it. Okay. Yeah.
No, we're good. Absolutely.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you later then. Take care.
All right. So long. See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
There we go. Well, that was cool. That was really cool.
Yeah. Well, there's so much to talk about, and it's the kind of thing where we kind of have to probably sit around the table somewhere and talk about it, so we don't bore everybody to death.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Yeah, no,
we never did wind up doing the Aerovoid slides, but we don't have to do them.
We can come back to that another time. That's cool. Eva commented saying, "Wonderful seeing everyone. Thank you so much. Great to see you, Joe and Joe." So just putting that out there from Eva.
Same to you, Eva.
And what did Martin say? Ross, they were all the right notes, but not in no order.
Exactly. Andre preview. Yeah.
And
Andrew preview. Yeah.
The Hague just said no boredom here. We appreciate that, John. Thank you. But no, this has been fun. And folks, again, I cannot stress, and we probably will circle back to this movie and give it more of attention. But again, going into this, we wanted to make you aware of 5/25/77, but we also did want to springboard off of it just to let everybody know about, because it was such a part of the movie about, stuff that we did growing up. And this film really just touched home. So definitely have to give a huge shout out to Patrick Reed Johnson, because he really he did really well with this film. It's the type of film that it just I don't know, it just brought me back 40 some years ago, and it's really good. So what I want to do is I'm going to go to the shout outs, and then we'll circle back, and then we'll just close out with some our last minute comments. So let me just do that really quickly and get to that point. And all righty, hang on one second. I'm just juggling a little bit with the controls. And here we go. So I want to give a shout out to our friends at Sci-Fi Distilled, who are Mike and Mary Beth. They are on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and they cover science fiction of the 80s, 90s, and beyond. They are actually going to be on this Wednesday, January 11th. They just came back. They have not announced what they're going to be doing as of yet, so stay tuned. They broadcast on Facebook as well as YouTube, so you can check it out, their Facebook page, and they will be letting you know what's going to be coming down the pike. So just stay tuned in regards to that. And again, that's this Wednesday, January 11th. Also, I want to give a shout out to my friend Bill at Country Gate Theater, the Country Gate Playhouse, the owner. And the theater is coming back, folks, for this year. There's going to be a full season. In regards to what's going to be announced, stay tuned for information on the website. You can go to www.countrygate.org, or you can also visit their Facebook page. And also, Bill has a personal website, which is www.billscorado.com. There is going to be a murder mystery that is in the making. It's going to be taking place in February. It will be in Belvedere, and it will also be in Harmony Township, Harker's Hollow. So definitely stay tuned. Bill will be providing information, and we'll let everybody know about that. So if you are in the Belvedere area, you can check it out. So stay tuned in regards to that. Captain Phil's Planet, Captain Phil of WUSB 90.1 FM, Stony Brook, New York. His schedule is on alternating Thursdays at 3 to 5 p.m., and he's also on Friday nights from 9 to 11:30 p.m. He's probably broadcasting right now. He was on earlier just for a bit. So stay tuned in regards to that, in regards to his information. Also, I want to give a shout out to Studio One Thrift. And also I want to say happy anniversary to John and Martha. And they celebrated 2 years yesterday. And that's why, again, it was much appreciated that John was able to come on. So in regards to Studio One Thrift, they actually, Martha and Snow, have a Facebook channel that they broadcast on, and you can see about their information in regards to their store. They are owners, and they showcase their lineup for all seasons, all year long, of quality and stylish, affordable clothing for both men and women. Definitely go to the website to check it out. Again, they do a lot of broadcasting on their business. They've been doing this business for about 9 to 10 months now. So it's www.studio1thrift.com. And also, Ross, if you can let everybody know what you've got going on this weekend.
All right. Well, these are the two shows I've got on WWFM, the Classical Network. Picture Perfect's the movie music show, and that airs Saturday nights at 6. And this week I'm doing, what am I doing? I'm doing movie composers write for television, or film composers write for television. So I've got music from the Alfred Hitchcock Hour by Bernard Herrmann. Music from Wagon Train by Jerome Moross, the composer of the Big Country and so many other film scores. Lost in Space by John Williams, you know him. And a medley of classic television themes by Jerry Goldsmith. So again, tomorrow night it's film composers write for television on Picture Perfect at 6 o'clock at wwfm.org. For The Lost Chord, that's unusual and neglected repertoire, classical music, on Sunday night at 10. I'm doing some forgotten Norwegian composers. So I've got works by Halfdan Kleve, who lived from 1879 to 1951. He kind of rode the wave of Norwegian nationalism in music. And also a work by Eyvind Alnes, who lived from 1872 to 1932. Best known for his art songs, but he wrote kind of a proto-Rachmaninoff piano concerto that we'll be hearing that night. The program is called Dark Horse Norseman, on The Lost Chord, Sunday night at 10, also at wwfm.org. If you missed the programs at the times mentioned, the times indicated, they will be posted there later as webcasts at wwfm.org. I promote them over the weekend on my Facebook page, Classic Ross Amico, so you'll find out more about Picture Perfect if you check in tomorrow morning. And The Lost Chord on Sunday morning, I'll be writing about that at Classic Ross Amico. And that's it, Roy. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Ross. And just to let everybody know, Ross and I will be back, and we're actually going to be back next Friday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And ironically enough, folks, it is Friday the 13th. So we have not announced what episode we're going to be doing yet, what we'll be featuring, but it is episode 178. Stay tuned. We will probably be doing something from the Twilight Zone just to kind of give you a little of a teaser out there for that. We haven't decided on what exactly we will be covering from the Twilight Zone, but stay tuned. We'll have that announced probably by Sunday evening. So just stay tuned for that information as well. And let me get back here. And thanks. Christian, thank you for being out there. Christian's joining us from Canada, and he's saying hello to all of us, and we appreciate it. And glad you enjoyed the show too, Bill. Thank you in regards to that. Yeah, it really was a real fun, nostalgic type of evening, and just in regards to covering everything. But yeah. So any last thoughts, guys, just in regards to everything?
Well, I'd love to have you both over just so we can go through all this old stuff. I mean, I've got everything. I've lost very little. I'm very surprised at the stuff that I've preserved, and I'd love to just sit down and go through all these old scripts. I've got stuff that I, as I said, Roy, that I wrote in regard to some of your stuff. Like promotional material and things, and stuff from Joe. Joe sent me a writer's guide to one of his stories because I was writing about one of his characters at this point. I still have it. So
wow, I don't even remember writing that, a writer's guide.
Yeah. I think it was for York Fasani, actually.
Interesting.
Wow. For the Fasani universe. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hey Ross, look what Christian said. Friday the 13th on Friday the 13th.
Yeah, we're not doing it. Yeah, Roy went for the low hanging fruit, but I said no, I'm not doing it.
Ross started twitching. Hey, I just want to say, thank you, Matt. Matt messaged us and said, thanks for having us on, guys. Great to see Joe again. Those shots from the movies were incredible. We should definitely get together and screen these as an event sometime. Also reminded me of the movie American Movie, a documentary about two independent Midwestern filmmakers. Mm-hmm. So we appreciate that, Matt. And thanks for being on. It definitely was a lot of fun, and looking forward to us, all hanging out again sometime soon. But yeah, guys, this has been great. And looking forward to where the three of us can physically get together, like Ross was saying, because Joe's in Utah, Ross is in Princeton, and I'm here in Powhatan, New Jersey. But so, as Meatloaf would say, 2 out of 3 isn't bad, but we want to make it 3 out of 3. So
yeah.
So hopefully sometime soon the three of us can get together, as opposed to just doing that virtually.
Visit me in Utah before the Great Salt Lake dries up, spewing toxic dust into the entire state.
You make it sound so attractive. I'm there. Yeah.
But anyway, guys, have a wonderful weekend. Live long and prosper, like we like to say.
Thank you.
Stay safe out there. Happy New Year, and we're very happy to have you back here. Today's actually the 6th of January, so so just stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Take care,
Thanks,
everyone.
Roy and Ross. Thank you.
Good to see you, Joe.
Same here.
Take care.